Hello, welcome back to your podcast for New York City taxi driver. My name is Mario Sena, president of Agape Transportation. And on this podcast, we have a special guest today. No more, no less than our TLC commissioner. Mr. David Doe is going to be with us today. Don't go away. We're just starting.
Great. Mario, thank you so much for allowing me to be on Agape's podcast. It's a true honor to be here today to talk not only to the industry, but to talk to you and your organization about all the things that we have planned. But the Taxi and Limousine Commission is a commission that licenses over 180,000 drivers, over 120,000 vehicles. So we're very excited to outreach and to meet drivers where they are. So this is an incredible opportunity for me to be here today, to talk to our drivers, to talk to you, and see what we have planned ahead. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here today.
Awesome. No, thank you, Commissioner David Doe, for taking your time to share with us. I mean, this we usually do that for keeping the drivers of New York City informed of what's going on, what the last news. And of course, the highest authority on the TLC is for us a privilege. It's an honor to have you here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Mr.
that.
Commissioner. Yeah. So you know a little bit about us. So we want to know about you. So people know about us. You've been here how long as a commissioner?
Almost a year and 6 months.
Oh,
Yeah. So
it looked like yesterday.
time flies, right?
Yes.
You know, I was appointed by Mayor Adams in May of 22. And then got through the council period, June 1st. And I started on June 1st or so.
Awesome. I heard you have already had some experience on the transportation industry.
That's right. I came from DC. I regulated the Department of For-Hire Vehicles, which is a much smaller entity than New York City. And what I've learned is that that New York City has a lot of stakeholders, has a lot of different views on a lot of different things, right? And so regulating an industry that has our liveries, our Lux limos, your industry, the traditional yellow, FHV, high volume, Uber and Lyft, it's very complicated. And everyone has a different view on a different sorts of, our regulatory structure. And I get a lot of different views. I have to distill that and make the best decision for the entire industry, for our passengers, for our industry stakeholders. But, my main focus oftentimes is our drivers.
Absolutely. No, and we appreciate that. So I'm coming from the industry. I myself was a taxi driver for 35 years in New York City. I usually say I driven 1 million miles in the tri-state area. So I know all the new buildings, how they come up. When I drive around with my wife, I used to see that when they started that one, that highway when they started. I know you have told me so many times already, because that was my life on the street. But I really appreciate it. I've been following you because you have been interested in know the different sectors of the industry, not just the office. I mean, how direct the TLC office. You've been with the Liberty institution. You be with the black car people. You be with the Uber. You be with the yellow cab. I mean, it's important to know all the aspect of the industry. On our side, as a driver, we see also we only see as a driver. So what is benefiting me or what is hurting me on the industry from your regulation as a driver. So, but we should be able to see all the aspects because. There is a lot of things going on that we as a driver or as a base owner, we don't know that you have it yourself because this whole sector have to be satisfied. I mean, looking for the service for the customer, number one, and then the drivers, because I always say without the drivers, we don't have an industry. That's why it's so important that we look for regulation that benefit and do and make the thing less difficult.
That's right.
For the drivers.
Yeah, that's right. When I look at the regulatory structure of New York City, right, I can't make everyone happy all the time. And, and sometimes, that's my job, to make the best decision that balances all the industry stakeholders. There's a lot of voices. And, if I make everyone happy, I'm not doing my job. But like you're a 30-year veteran of driving, right? I also drive. I'm 1 year old when getting my TLC license. And so I'm pretty new in all this. But in the last year, since I've driven a yellow, I've driven a livery, I've driven a black car. And so I truly want to experience what drivers are experiencing on a regular basis, sitting behind the wheel, understanding what drivers go through. Because I think for many commissioners, right, they regulate from 33 Beaver Street. They don't regulate for where the drivers sit. And so it's really important to me to learn every single aspect of every single person's experience within the New York City's regulatory framework. It is important to me. And, most recently, I drove from Upper Harlem to Inwood, all the way to the Bronx, right? And I met with a variety of different car bases. And what I understood, right, is that our community car bases, our livery bases like yours, are truly important to the communities we serve. And that's what I'm going for, right? Through my regulatory structures. I want to understand, I want to be with our passengers, and I want to see what challenges there are so that we can overcome them together. And that's my main goal.
It's a lot of pressure that we have as a driver. Regulation, the speed limit, the camera. I mean, we didn't have camera in the 80s with speed or red light camera. We didn't have that thing. So it's like changing the culture of the driving in New York City. I understand that. The same thing with the bus lane, with the bicycle lane. I mean, it's new to us as driver. And to digest all the changes for the taxi driver is very, very difficult.
I think that's right. I think that there's a lot of rules to the road, and we are looking at data. We're looking at camera tickets. We're looking at behavior across our city. But one thing I think we can collectively agree on is that we want safer roads. We want to ensure that no one dies on our roadways. And that's our vision, right? That is our long-term vision, to have safer roadways for our drivers, for our pedestrians, for our bicyclists. And so what that means is that we have to share the road. What that means is that we have to follow roadway rules and laws, right? And I know it's sometimes very difficult, especially when a driver has to pick up and drop off in a bus lane, for example. Yeah. And, right behind them, there is a bus that's coming down, and they might get a snap ticket. Right.
Correct.
And so these are challenges of the roadways, but I implore all drivers to follow the rules of the roadway. And so if they're going to pick up and drop off in a bus lane, they need to make that next right. They can't go and decide they want to go to the left lane. Oftentimes I see that on the roadways. Or in a bike lane. Don't park in a bike lane. That is where you're going to get a ticket very easily, or a summons very easily from the TLC, from NYPD, or from one of our partners. And so I always implore our drivers, if you drive safely, if you follow the rules of the roadway, you're not going to get a summons, and you're going to be better for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I tell you, Commissioner, is to adapt to the lifestyle of the way we used to drive in the city. The timing for the driver, you have 10 hours, 8 hours to make it. So if it doesn't make it, next day, but that day they want to be sure that they complete whatever they in the morning say, I'm going to make 200, 300, 400. Yep. Or even 600 if you work for Agape, of course.
All right, there you go. That's a good plug for you.
Absolutely. EV, the driver's waiting for the EV. How many EV new plates you registered with that?
Session? I think that what we're very proud of is our EV exemption, is that it provides a pathway for many drivers to earn a middle-class living, right? This is something that is incredibly important to me. It's incredibly important to our mayor. It's incredibly important to you as a business owner, for drivers to be able to own their own car. What we have been seeing is that drivers were paying as much as $900 a week to rent a Suburban. Right now, they're moving away from a gas guzzling vehicle to going into a Model Y, and they're saving upwards of $300 per week, right? So after insurance, after everything else, this driver might be paying $600 per week for his own Model Y. And at the end of that lease, guess what? He gets to keep his own car. That is what we want to do, right? And this is something that I have been focused on to make our drivers' lives a lot better. We have had 9,756 additional licenses. But what is amazing by that, right, is that I get a lot of criticism from a lot of people across our industry that they're going to mega corporations, that they're going to corporations like Hertz or Revel or big leasing companies. That's not true. 88% of our licenses, the 9,756, went to individuals. And then about a little over 1,000 went to corporations. But what does that mean, right? When I looked at the data, many of those that went to corporations were corporations in the individual's name, right?
Gotcha.
Right? Because that happens a lot, right? So it is David Doe LLC. It is Sena LLC, right? And they put their one vehicle that they own into the LLC. It is because they want protections as a corporate entity, just like many others want that corporate protection. But it's still going to an individual.
Yeah, that's great, because they outside the driver have the perception that the big company has the most of the new plates. I don't know where they get that from.
I think that it's always the view that when the TLC does something, it is to do something for a corporation. That is not the case. My job has always been to make sure that the industry as a whole is thriving, making sure that our drivers make the most money as they can, for the passengers to have a safe ride, right? And those are the things that I focus on a regular basis, to make sure that a regulatory framework, it is for our passengers and our drivers, right? And that's, I think, what we all strive for. Because like you said, without drivers, you don't have an industry, you don't have a business. And so that is what's incredibly important for both regulators and the corporations.
Absolutely. But as you say, it's somebody said that it's insane to try to have everybody happy. It's impossible have everybody. Yeah. So, but you have done a great job in getting informed from all the aspect of the industry, and then you can you can bring ideas, new ideas, and all. Are you actively in the industry? You just said it. You're the first commissioner to have a TLC driver license,
right,
to work as a taxi driver. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. That tells a lot of things about you.
Yeah, but it's not all about the driving part of it, right? Mm-hmm. I think I want to give drivers access to the commissioner. When I go to LaGuardia Airport, just right down the street from here, I wait in line, the drivers can talk to me, right? The drivers has access to see what their problems are, be it in the yellow lanes. I hear a lot about the Taxi Improvement Fund and how they're not getting paid from the TLC. Well, then I can go back and say to my team members, what is going on? How can we change the infrastructure of our government agency? And, I always passionate about improving government efficiency. And then I can go back and talk to my staff members and say, this is what we're doing. This is how we should do it. And this is how we can improve our city's technological infrastructure, but also our business practices to improve it, to address concerns from you, from our drivers, from our small businesses, because this is how it's keeping the city moving. And I want to continue. This transportation sector keeps our city moving. I want to keep our city moving.
Absolutely. And we appreciate all the time that you, I see you different from the other commissioner. They did something different. Each one, brings something different, but you've been involved directly with you look like my good brother and friends from DOT. Yeah. Idanis Rodriguez at DOT. That guy worked with his heart. He wants to improve the quality of life of the streets outside, including the taxi drivers, everybody else over there. So we're going to have him as a guest.
That's great.
Soon. Yeah, Idanis Rodriguez, yeah. my brother. So it's coming soon to share with us because the driver once you understand why a bus lane, why you taking the space from the drivers, to give it to the bus lane. I mean, I went to one of those presentation, and we were fascinated how that improved the traffic, actually. On the street, yeah. So we're going to have him very soon.
Well, Commissioner Rodriguez is a true friend of mine. He's a mentor. He has been part of New York City politics for a long time. And now I'm so appreciative that he is our DOT commissioner. He has a long-term vision of how we move the city forward. And you're right? Bus lanes, bike lanes move people faster. And that is what is important, right? And so if traffic moves faster, guess what? Drivers can move faster. And I think that is a goal of all of ours, because we want to make sure that congestion is not a place, that drivers can go to point A to point B in an efficient manner so that they can serve their customers better. And then they can go on to the next customer, right? Efficiency is where Adonis and I have a very much an aligned vision. But what is more important is that we have a strong ally at the DOT, because Adonis has always been for our drivers. He has been a driver himself.
Yes.
He is an advocate for all of us. And so that is why I truly respect him and I truly love working with him, because he has an overall vision for our city and not just one point of vision. And that is important in any commissioner. And like you said, it's important for us to engage with many different people. And Adonis does that. And so I truly appreciate it. I'm so excited to hear him on our podcast in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've been doing something very interesting. You have link with the DOT and also the MTA. Those are the three major factors of transportation, road, and
That's right.
services. That's a genius idea. I mean, it have to be like this.
And the Port Authority, right?
Port Authority.
And so we all partner across the board. I meet with the MTA on a regular basis. I meet with Adonis on a regular basis. And I also meet with Rick Cotton at the MTA on a regular basis, because our city's infrastructure is so intertwined amongst different entities.
Yep.
And if we can work together, we can build a better city for it. And so these task force, these meetings that we have to not only look at what contributions that the New York City for-hire vehicle sector does to our entire transportation sector, but also how we can stop things like hustling at an airport, which is an incredibly important thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is taking, an illegal hustler is taking away real business from a licensed driver. And that's why I'm so focused on that at our airports, at our both JFK and LaGuardia, right? Because I want to make sure that these hustlers are not operating illegally and not taking away from your drivers.
Absolutely. I've seen it for years, and I can't stand that kind of, it's amazing.
And the worst part of all that is that they're scamming passengers out of a lot of money.
Yes.
And they're taking passengers' luggage, right, as hostage.
Yeah,
unless
exactly.
you pay me X amount of dollars, I'm not giving it back to you. And so imagine when, someone from our Latin countries visit for the first time, and the first thing they experience is a scam.
Yeah.
That's not nice.
Yeah.
And so that's what we want to prevent. And that's why these partnerships across the board are so important.
Very important. I always seen that powerless from the Port Authority at the airports. I don't know why so long we have in that kind of situation with drivers, unlicensed drivers. I mean, people don't know. They just want a ride, and they just say go through that experience. Terrible. So going back to the EV, electrical vehicle.
Okay.
We're going to have a lot of them on the street. What do we have in mind to charge them?
That's a great question.
Yes.
And what I have seen and worked with my various partners is that the charging infrastructure in our city right now is underutilized, right? I have heard from big corporations like Revel that says that, their charging infrastructure, there's so much capacity left for people to charge, right? And so drivers need to know about their various charging infrastructure experiences. They need to go onto PlugShare, which is an app through the Android or Apple store, so that they can see where the charging infrastructure is in our city. But you're 100% right that there needs to be a lot more infrastructure. And that's why I'm working within my agency with my other partners like DOT to ensure that we get more infrastructure for drivers. It's not as easy as, putting in a charging infrastructure and then the next day we have charging. It has to be long-term planning.
Gotcha.
And that's why with DOT, we've just got a CFI grant of $35 million to provide charging infrastructure where drivers live, right? In the Bronx, in Queens, in Brooklyn, right? In our outer boroughs, we need to ensure that there's charging infrastructure so that they can charge their car overnight to 300 miles and then they can work the next morning. That's what we're focused on. And then there's also the National NEVI grants, right, by the Biden administration that the state has recently received funding. So we're going to be fighting to ensure that our passageways and our thoroughfares across our city has access to high-speed charging infrastructure. But I think many drivers also know right now is that our Woodside facility, we're going under construction, right? Every time they go into inspection, they're going into construction. We're building 30 high-speed charging infrastructure at our own facility. Okay. That'll be available in 2025. And so, I have to look at the short term, medium term, and long term. And that's why we're partnering across the board to ensure that drivers have the charging infrastructure that they need so that they can be successful.
Awesome. So because we need that. I mean, the driver, the driver mind, they see the problem before being the benefit. So they focus on all that. On the other point that the drivers worry a little bit now is about the new congestion tolls on 60th Street. Tell us about it. What do you have or what the city has?
Right now, it was a big win for all of us to do a per trip cost, right? Imagine if it was what was proposed, $15 per entry into the congestion zone. That would have been devastating to our taxi industry, to our yellow industry, to our for-hire vehicle industry. But when the administration fought, Mayor Adams fought, we went to a $2.50 per trip toll rate within the congestion zone, right? That is going to be passed on to the passengers. And then $1.25 for our yellow taxis. And so that is much better than the $15 entry and exit. And so, that is why we have these partnerships, right? So that we can work on a better result that does not hurt drivers. And this is what we're very excited by. But yes, congestion pricing is coming and is something that our mayor and I, we support. And we want to make sure that, in the long run, that drivers can make a living faster, take passengers where they need to go with less congestion. And that's a win for our industry. Yeah,
I think when we see the result on the less congestion, the taxi driver, they're going to be very happy. To instead of taking, from 60th Street to Wall Street, 45 minutes, that they can do it in 15. That's going to be a win-win there.
That is a big win, right? And that I hope that is what comes out of this. And I expect that hopefully this comes out and that would be a huge win for the entire for-hire vehicle sector. Because, I think even when someone wants to go to a doctor's appointment from the Bronx, they want to get there timely because they have a set appointment. Right? When they want to make sure that they can get to a fun event with their family, they want to get there on time. They don't want to be late. And, to go 3-4 miles in 45 minutes, that's not fun. That's not fun for anyone. And so I am very hopeful that congestion pricing works, and I expect it to work.
Good. So driver, be clear, $250 for taxi driver to cross below 60th Street. And is passed on to the passenger.
That's right. And it's a per trip cost.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. And we're working with the MTA on how we can build the infrastructure around that. But there is certainly infrastructure already, right? Like the Black Car Fund. I think they take $2.50 or 2.75% or 2.5.
It's a good fund to have.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's infrastructure in place like that, and so that we're just going to build on that. For every trip within the zone.
Awesome. Commissioner Doe.
That's right. You got it.
I said it right?
You got it.
Excellent. Any last minute, something for our drivers, hope for the drivers. I mean,
that's right.
That we did. Tell us something what you wish for the drivers?
I wish
advice?
for the drivers to be successful, to get out of predatory leases, to ensure that there is a market, industry that is for them, that works for them. And that's what I look at on a regular basis. From our regulatory framework, from our internal workings to improve the lives of drivers, that is what we want. In the next 2 to 3 years, what I'm hopeful for is a better interaction, a better, more improved customer service experience at our licensing facilities, at our prosecution offices. That is always a consternation that I hear from drivers, and at our inspection facilities. They will see a whole new way of business at the TLC. We are going through a $30 million modernization project, a $100 million modernization project for our Woodside facilities, $30 million for our systems. And that is all to help drivers do business with the TLC faster, more nimble, so that they can get on the road. That is our vision. That is what we want. And we're also working on building more infrastructure, EV infrastructure, so that they can be successful and they can be on the road to do business as a driver in New York. That is my vision. That is my hope. And I just wish all of our drivers, including you, a very best holiday season, a merry holiday. And so thank you so much for allowing me to be here on the podcast today. It has been a wonderful pleasure, Mario, and a really good opportunity to work with you. It is something that I know you care about our drivers, and so I so much appreciate being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. It's humbly, it's an honor to have you here. That you have taken your time to share with us and the drivers. I mean, you thought what's going on in the industry, because the driver usually they don't get the right news from we have different things that we said outside. So usually the driver have no time to get to the right news. I mean, the right directions. So I'm very glad to have you here. I hope that all the drivers enjoy all the information. I mean, everything that's going on, and really from the bottom of my heart, would appreciate it. May God bless you, Commissioner, and I hope the best, and that you keep taking this industry to the next level.
Thank you, Mario.
Commissioner,
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.